1985, if you wished to purchase a home movie on VHS or, God bless us all, Beta, such a movie would cost between $150 and $200. Too much for most people to afford, and it was at that point that a man by the name of David Cook in Dallas, Texas, had a wonderful idea. He would buy up home movies in VHS and Beta, and he would rent them out. People thought he was crazy. They just assumed that everybody would steal those movies from him in the process of renting. But in fact, his business succeeded, and Blockbuster Videos was born. In 1986, business was going so well that David Cook had to open up a warehouse in Garland, Texas. It cost $6 million, and it was able to stock and equip multiple Blockbuster stores inside of one day. And it's a really good thing it was, because in the years to follow, Blockbuster stores opened up all across North America, Great Britain, and Europe at a rate of one store every 24 hours. In 1994, Blockbuster was worth in excess of $10 billion. In 2004, John Antioch, the vice president, made $51.6 million. And in 2009, Blockbuster Video employed over 60,000 people. It was success writ large. On September the 22nd, 2010, Blockbuster Video declared bankruptcy with a debt of close to $1 billion. They were wiped out. They had risen with incredible power. They had been success in every sense you could imagine. And within a few short years, Blockbuster Video ceased to exist. And now when you drive by their stores, you see empty shelves. Incredible thing. What happened to Blockbuster? And any business analyst will tell you it was really, really simple. They only had one product. And their product was in high demand for a certain period of time, but when that time was over, nobody wanted what they had. And they were not smart enough or fast enough to adapt to a new technology. They offered something that people wanted for a little bit, but when the demand was over, they were finished. What a strange thing it was, now that we think about it, going to a Blockbuster store to get a movie for the evening. Remember how ridiculous that was? Waiting there in line and then finding out that your movie wasn't there anyway? And then taking some second choice and having to stand there? Why would people do that? We look back now and we see how easy it is to order things online. It's so simple and instant. It's over. I know there are one or two people sitting out there right now thinking, my goodness, Mark, that's a really interesting story. But what relevance does it have for the church? Others of you are saying, oh, I see the relevance right away. It's pretty obvious. As we look at churches closing down like used up, useless Blockbuster stores all around us, and everyone can say, oh, we understand, we, the church, had a product, and for a certain amount of time, the product that we had was in great demand, everybody wanted it, and we flourished. But now we have reached a day when the product that we were offering is no longer in demand. The church has become irrelevant, and very soon all churches, like Blockbuster stores across Canada, will be empty buildings. We couldn't adapt. We only had that one product, and people wanted it for a bit, but then God's forgiveness. It was sort of a bundle package like Rogers would offer. It was sin and guilt and forgiveness all in one package. You take it all. And it was in really high demand because the people around us lived in dread fear of spending eternity in hell. It's the most wonderful example of a certain agency creating a need and then having the product to meet that need. We told everyone, if you aren't good, if you aren't a Christian, you're going to burn in hell. But we, the church, have the product to sell you that will make sure that you don't. Sheer marketing genius. But now, of course, if you walk down the street and say to people, I'm a representative of the church, and I am here to say to you that I have something to offer you so that you don't have to burn in hell for all eternity. Most people will look at you and say, well, that really wasn't a big concern for me to begin with. So the product that we offer is no longer in demand. It may be interesting for you to know that over 80% of all Canadians will never set foot inside a church. Over 80%. We lasted longer than Blockbuster. They only went from 1985 to 2010. We lasted for 4,000 years. But still, it's done. But let's think about that just a little bit. Am I right when I say the product we have to offer is God's forgiveness and that's all that we have? Is that all that the church is about, is convicting people of their sin, making them feel deep guilt, and then saying to them, we have the antidote for the sin that we have made you feel? And the answer is no. That is not the substance of the church. That was never the foundation of the church. And when God looks down at his people, God is not primarily concerned with the fact that you are sinful and deserve to go to hell and need to repent. God has more things to think about you than that. The fear of hell became a wonderful tool to frighten and control people in the 15th century. It became a beautiful stewardship tool by which to extort untold amounts of money out of people by saying to them, unless you give a certain amount, you are damned for all eternity. And even though today we are far more sophisticated than those strange 15th century people, that attitude has stayed with us like a bad hangover. And when people think of the church, the first thing they think of is sin and damnation and forgiveness. And we need to say to the world, we have other products apart from that. We have something else to offer you. And if we don't tell the world that and reveal to them the rich depths of all that we have, then we will go the way of Blockbuster. Passage from Job this morning, we read about how there are things we can see on the surface of the earth, but beneath the earth there are more things than we can imagine. In the depths of the earth there are sapphires and rubies and diamonds and gold. And so in the depths of the church there are treasures untold that we have not yet begun to share with the world. We have so much to offer. When God looks at us, God is not primarily concerned with our sin. We should have known that even from reading the Old Testament, in which God says, I do not demand sacrifice. I'm not upset with you. I'm not obsessed with your sin. Stop trying to appease me as if I am some human invention of a God developed by a superstitious people who think they have to sacrifice to satisfy my anger. All I want from you is tenderness and compassion and kindness and mercy. I am not angry. says, all I want is for you to love each other. Because when you love each other, human life becomes rich and powerful and whole and healing. And all of humankind is lifted up into a new state that I call the kingdom of God. God looks down on us and he does not see sinful people. God sees suffering people. People suffering with grief. And to those people he says, I am love. I feel your grief with you, and I feel deep sadness when you would feel sad. I suffer with you. God looks down and sees people suffering hunger, and he says, I feel the hunger with you. And then he turns to all those who have sufficient and says, I am your God, and I call upon you. Share of your bounty. With compassion, feel what those hungry people are feeling and respond to them with love. God looks down and sees his people suffering in the midst of warfare, and he says to all of his people, for goodness sakes, why do you fight? You are all equal. You are all precious in my sight. Why don't you learn to appreciate diversity and difference and love each other? God sees suffering people who have failed in life, and God says to them, for goodness sakes, success in life is not triumph in your work or industry. Success is having some friends who love you, living a life that has tenderness and thoughtfulness in it. Looks and sees people who are suffering with sickness and says, my will is the healing of your soul. Love each other. Have compassion. Live with hope and live with grace. There is so much more to our relationship to God than just a relationship based on that bundle of sin and guilt and forgiveness. If that's all that we have, then we are a grey, two-dimensional, Gothic institution that will only be attractive to that very narrow part of society that is obsessed with its own guilt and shortfall. But what we offer to the world, what God offers, is so much richer. A relationship based on compassion, tenderness, diversity, joy, wholeness, loving community. And if we can go out to the world and say, look, this is what we are offering, then the world will say, my goodness, I didn't know you had so much. I'll come back, because those are things that I want. Sin and guilt and compassion will always be a part of the church. But they are not everything. They are not the primary way in which God relates to us. Even when we look at the cross of Calvary, we have to understand it's not about a punitive, threatening God saying, somebody had to pay the price. It's about a God who says, look how much I love you. I give my own life for you. The cross is not just the payment for sin that has to be met because God has some obsession with balancing up the great weight scales of justice. It is a sign of God's revelation of loving tenderness. It is not merely a sacrifice. It is a sign of God's compassion. We can never do away with sin or guilt or forgiveness. But those things are just on the surface. The Apostle Paul says, do not waste the abundance of grace that has been given to you. It is something to share with all the people around you. In a sense, if we don't go out and give those gifts, show the world who we truly are, we don't deserve to be here. So tell your friends, tell everyone you know, God is not primarily concerned with guilt and sin. God is concerned with healing, state. And I assure you, the church is not coming to an end like Blockbuster. We've been around for 4,000 years, and those first 4,000 years were a little bit tough for us because we got mixed up in superstition and cultism and ethnocentrism. The next 4,000 years, in which we will discover who we truly are, will be glorious. Church is not about to end. It is just beginning. The future will be unbelievable. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.